Experts in the leadership field say that more and more leaders need to be flexible, creative, and adaptable. And what I've learned about you is you definitely rank high in these styles. And the reason I say that is because of what you did during COVID. You set up a school for your employees, kids, and you provided breakfast and lunch and all kinds of things like that. I think you hired teachers or facilitators, and then you had a cook on staff, right? Tell us about that. And then I think you made yourself essential, and I thought alcohol was essential, oddly enough, during that period. So tell us about that window of time.
That window of time was very scary for everybody because we all thought we were going to die. We all thought, we were going to get COVID from each other. It was very hard to keep employees from getting scared of each other and at work. Everybody had to wear a mask, but you couldn't buy masks anywhere because masks were sold out. You couldn't get hand sanitizer anywhere because that was all sold out. You couldn't get vitamins or Band-Aids or Tylenol or anything like that. It was all sold out. And so I got on Alibaba and I talked to some of my Harvard cohorts that I went to school with too. And I was like, I need masks and I need bottles. I need, all kinds of things that I need. And I imported from China and I was told, you're going to import it from China, these masks, but what's going to happen is the government's going to seize it at the port and take it for the better use of all Americans, type of thing, and you're not going
Right.
to ever see it and get it.
Yeah.
Um, but I eventually did get it. So I had all these masks, and I told my employees, look, you need to go get your COVID shot, which, some of them rebelled. They were like, nope, not going to do it. I'm like, well, okay, well, then you'll have to be fired because I have to do it for the better good for everybody. And if you won't get COVID shot, then you might get COVID and you might pass it and don't want you, giving it to other people.
Hmm.
So, you can have your choice, but I don't want you here if you can't protect others.
Right.
So, that was the first line in the sand. So that was tough. It was tough because I had to have everybody there to work in a warehouse. You can't make product if you don't come to work. But employees couldn't come to work because their kids had to stay at home because schools were closed. And they had to do online learning. And when you have little kids like elementary, kindergarten, that kind of kid, they can't stay at home with older brother or grandma or anything like that. And most of them couldn't afford, most of my employees couldn't afford a nanny or a,
Right.
stay-at-home babysitter. So
Sure.
anyway, I started this school, and I bought a TEA certified teacher and had her come in. She was a great tutor, a great teacher. And, we had kids in Garland schools, Fort Worth schools, Dallas schools, Plano schools, everywhere schools. And they all brought in their own personal device that they were supposed to use for school, a PC. We had headphones. We set up a conference room, created a classroom for them, had an assistant teacher for PE and art and dance and other things. And then, my employees started work at 6 a.m. So they needed to drop their kid off at 6 a.m. or just before. So we had to have that, somebody there early in the morning to accept the kids, get them going on their homework, give them a snack, make sure that they've eaten and that they've, done their stuff, getting ready for school at 8 a.m. So at 8 a.m., they got online, put on their headphones, did their school stuff. They had their lunch breaks, they had their activity breaks. And then at the end of the day, they would go home with their parents. Um, the other thing that was interesting during COVID was, I had a team meeting when it first started and employees were confused. And so they were like, I don't want to be here. I'm scared to be next to each other. We had the meeting outside and, we're all spaced apart and did all the social stuff that we were supposed to do. But I asked them, who's scared? And some of them raised their hand and I raised my hand too. And I said, we're all scared. We're all worried we're going to die from this. Chances are someone will die from COVID. We don't know. But I know that you need a paycheck to pay your rent. And I know that I need you to come to work to get that paycheck. And I need it to continue the business. I don't know if the business can succeed if we shut down for a few months. I just don't know if it can carry on. And I said, look, everybody's going to wear a mask. We're going to cook differently because we had to cook on staff for lunches every day, but we cooked in separate meals. They ate separately instead of all together. We we did our spacing, we did all of our stuff. But one of the other things we had to do too was, making booze, was that essential or not? Because I mean, food, gas, hospitals, those were definitely essential. It was clear. But I couldn't get a straight answer from anybody in the city if we were essential or not making alcoholic beverages.
Mhm.
And so I said, well, what we'll do is we'll make ourselves essential. We'll figure out how to make hand sanitizer out of our alcohol. And some companies were doing that, but
Was it flavored hand sanitizer?
we gave away a $500,000, $500,000 in hand sanitizer that we gave away. And people were like, "Oh, can I talk to you about your hand sanitizer? I want to buy everything you make. I want to resell it, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Nope, that's not why we're doing this. We're doing this because of the betterment of mankind, and we want people in our area to survive." So I gave truckloads of hand sanitizer to every single hospital, and we delivered it to them. We used our own bottles, our own FDA approved hand sanitizer formulation. We used our own grain neutral spirits, vodka to help make it. We bottled it in liquor bottles and put some spray pump things on top of it. We gave it to the airlines. We gave it to the grocery stores. We gave it to all the lab corps. We gave it to the Federal Reserve. We gave it to the Coast Guard, the Navy. We gave it to all of the different entities that we could think that were essential, that had to have people in them all the time.
And that must have
So
cost a lot of money
it cost a
on
lot of
you.
money, and people felt like it was a labor of love to do it. We all volunteered our time and came in and did it and built it, labeled it, shipped it, gave it away. And
Mhm.
people were so grateful. They were like, "How much can I pay you for it?" I'm like, "Nope, it's not for pay. It's for the betterment of mankind." And so they loved that, that was the message. And I don't know that that got us any sales or anything like that, but it kept us in business. And while we were making hand sanitizer, we could also make buzz balls.
So you were able to kinda offset any cost with the sales of the buzz balls, I take it?
No, we didn't offset any costs. It was sunk cost, but we were able to stay in business with
Okay.
buzz balls and continue to sell. But
Yeah.
it did take a hit, of $500,000 for sure, of, just trying to stay afloat.
Yeah. Wow, wow. So, one thing I love about what you said was you sat down with your employees and you were vulnerable with them. And it's like, "Hey, I'm
Mhm.
scared too." And the fact of the matter is I need you here and you need money. You were just real and authentic is what
Mhm.
I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And I
The
know.
other thing that I did too that was, I included my kids and the smartest guys that were engineers in the room. And I said, you guys need to go figure out the formulation for hand sanitizer. I need you to research. I need you to Google. I need you to figure it out. You need to talk to the FDA. You got to figure out this formulation. You need to figure out how we're going to source this stuff. How
Mhm.
are we going to get glycerin? How are we going to get this or that? And I remember one day we were talking to our plant manager and we needed 50 gallons of glycerin. You know what glycerin is? It's
Kinda.
like a slippery, kind of oily,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever,
Uh-huh.
right? But I needed food grade glycerin to put in this hand sanitizer, like safe
Mhm.
glycerin. And my African American plant manager at the time, he said, "Well, I know where to get glycerin." I'm like, "Where can I get glycerin?" He goes, "You go to every hair care store. You go to every African American hair care store." So we all split up, scoured the city, went to every like vitamin store, every African American hair care store, bought 100% glycerin, brought it back, dumped it in a barrel, and just try to take an 8-ounce bottle, dump it in, take another 8-ounce bottle, dump it in, and just keep going until you get enough glycerin to make the hand sanitizer. It was an interesting project, and my guys were amazing. They, Sammy Nasiri, Alex Kick, those guys, Charles Irvin, all those guys came together and put it together. And Cheo Cavill, put it together. We figured out the formula, got it approved. Teal Wines set up the label for it. We just made a plain ass boring label, put it on the bottle, different sizes. We ordered squirt bottles, we ordered caps for them, and then we just filled it. And everybody came and supported it and delivered it.
It's kinda like the epitome of a guerrilla business, you just scramble and make it happen, right? Yeah, that is
Yeah,
that's
and I think my employees will remember that,
mhm.
creating the safety manual for COVID. What are we going to do? What are our protocols? We didn't even have a protocol for a disease like that,